This is Level Select, a golf podcast from the boys over at Fair Wagers Golf, where we aim to help you learn about some of the nation's most talked about golf courses, as well as uncover some hidden gems with a little help from our friends and their firsthand experiences. I'm TJ Van Gunten, and with me, as always, is Sean Massey. Today, we're going to be talking about Cabot Citrus Farms in Brooksville, Florida, more specifically, the Karoo Course, with our good friend and native Tampan, Blake Von Thaden. Blake, welcome aboard.
Happy to be here, guys. Happy to be back on the pod. We talked Torrey last time. Happy to talk about a golf course that's more in my neck of the woods that hopefully one day you guys will be able to come peg it with me. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about it. Let's get into it.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think our goal with this is to go talk about some courses that are not in our neighborhood. We've done so much on Must Play to cover, Southern California, Arizona, our trips up to the Pacific Northwest, but we know there's a lot more Must Play courses all across the country. So we want to do something like this, talk to people all across the country with hopes that someday we get to grab the guest and go out and play these courses and then ultimately rank them on Must Play. So fingers crossed that 2025 is the year that we get to make the fated trip to Tampa and see Blake finally.
Let's go. Tampa,
I
Florida, by
really
the way, for those of you playing at home, greatest city in America.
I don't know about
that. Come visit.
That's self-proclaimed, right? That's not on any official documents, right?
Yeah, it's not on any official documents as far as I'm concerned, but one day when I'm mayor of this city, it'll be our slogan: greatest city in America, and it will be true.
I think somehow it is because it avoids every hurricane by like miles every single time. It's like danger the first time ever, it's going to hit the harbor, and then it goes just north or south.
Yeah, it's like Cat 5 going right over your house, and you're like 24 hours from the storm. You've boarded everything up, and then all of a sudden, 2 hours before the storm really gets close to the coast, it's like, oh, this has made a 50-mile shift down to Miami, or this is going to go up to the Panhandle and just throw a bunch of trailers around. Tampa, you're good. Don't worry about it. One day it is going to hose us, though, and I'm not looking forward to that day.
Well, outside of Tampa, I know Brooksville's just a little bit north of Tampa, correct, Blake? If we're looking at it geographically.
Yeah, it's like 45 minutes north. If you're familiar with the highways, it's a highway system in Florida. We've got the Veterans Expressway, which is more on the west side of Tampa, and that'll take you straight up to Brooksville. So fortunately, Tampa's pretty positioned to get there in 45 minutes. Every time I've played Cabot, which is 5 or 6 times, it's, you got a tee time at 8 o'clock. You wake up at 5:30, your wheels up at 6, and you get there at 6:45, and you get about an hour to go tinker around out there. It's super easy drive, very nice, but it's also positioned pretty close to Gainesville, Orlando. You can really hit it from multiple directions. But yeah, super close to us.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
Nice.
That's good insider knowledge from someone who is local. Those are other little things that I think we aim to kind of uncover, because I know we talk about some courses that we've played, like how much the drive is out to Southern Dunes from Phoenix. We just talked about it recently on Must Play, where we talked about the drive out to Torrey Pines, or even some of the San Diego courses that are a little bit outside of proper San Diego. But it's good to know what your morning could look like for a round out at Cabot, because obviously Go ahead, Blake.
Yeah, I was just gonna say people, when they look at the map of Florida, they know Orlando, Jacksonville, Tampa, Miami. Like, those are the big buzzwords for them. So when they go and they look at golf, they see Brooksville, and they're like, "Oh, where the hell is Brooksville? I don't want to drive to Brooksville." But once you realize it's not that bad of a drive, you could be sitting in 45 minutes worth of traffic in Tampa just to get to a course that's, like my home course from my house. If I go down Del Mabry and there's traffic, it takes me 35 minutes to get to my club. Whereas I can get on the interstate in the morning and just fly and get there in 45 minutes. So it's not bad at all.
45 minutes on the interstate versus like in traffic is such a different feeling too. You could be in San Diego, want to go play a course that on a map should be 10-minute drive, and it's a 45-minute drive because you're coming down from, let's say, like Temecula to North County, and you're hitting all the traffic going into San Diego or something like that.
And
it's
the best
feeling.
The best part about highway traffic is, like, especially if like you're driving with your boys and you got a car loaded to the gills with the fellas, and it's early morning, you just stopped at Mickey D's, you got some chicken breakfast sandwiches.
Mickey D's.
Oh, dude, if you're not,
Before a round. Hold on.
guys. This is going to be. We can't have
this
this
is a
podcast
whole
be
other
this long.
podcast.
Credibility out the window on this podcast right now.
Yeah, trust the process from somebody that is an avid connoisseur of the Golden Arches. McDonald's in the morning is a pro move. It depends on what you get, but I
uh,
digress.
Blake is like a Sherman tank where it could run on any fuel that you want to put inside of it. And actually, it's like if you give it like bioethanol, it actually works worse. Like if you
Yeah,
give it the stuff that's supposed to be good for it, it actually does worse.
yeah. You give me a
If it
leafy
only
green, it's like a piece of sand in a microchip. It doesn't it doesn't bode well. But you give me a nice like McDonald's triple cheeseburger with mac sauce on it, I'm flying, dude. I'm cooking.
But wait, what's the order on the way to Cabot? Like, what's the combo of like your best round at Cabot came from what you ordered at Mickey D's? Like, what's your
All
what's
right,
your pick?
so I played around at Cabot with a few of my buddies from college, and I made 13 or 14 straight pars to begin the round.
Uh-huh.
I think I finished with a 78, which is tough because I blew up in the last couple of holes. But that morning, I stopped at McDonald's. I got two chicken biscuits, two hash browns, and then a giant thing of sweet tea. And you just nuke
Oh,
it as you're in the car, chewing, vibing, listening to some tunes. And you go out there and you play well. The worst round I had, I went with another buddy of mine, and I had one of those like gas station power bars. I think it had like Robert Irvine on the power bar, and then I
fit,
had
fit,
a
fit Crush.
Pedialyte. Yeah, yes, Fit Crush, yeah. And I had that in a Pedialyte, and I think I shot 88. It was devastating.
scientific
So
approach here. Okay, I might be
I
flipping.
know, but you have to try it.
Okay.
It's sensational. Either way, let's dive back into Cabot because unless you live underneath a rock or even underneath a cliff, you're probably familiar with the Cabot family of courses, the incredible resorts that go along with them. I pulled a little excerpt from Cabot's website to talk about the Karoo course. So we're going to read that and then we'll kind of dive into some of our first impressions or what we know about the courses. So, as the website states, a dynamic 18-hole layout designed by Kyle Franz, Karoo features rugged aesthetics with wide fairways, multiple routes to pins, and bold green contours. Varied tee boxes give players a refreshed look at the course's features each time they played. That's actually a fresh look at the course's features each time they play. Thoughtfully planned, Karoo rewards creative short grass recovery shots around the greens. Golfers will encounter sandhill cranes throughout their round on this 7,201-yard design. These elegant birds are known to dance and sing, and their call is a loud trumpeting sound that is often described as, you guessed it, a rolling karoo. Hence
Hmm.
the name. So Blake's given us a little bit of an intro, but I want to check in with Sean here. Sean, what is your base knowledge of Cabot? Is this your first time you've heard of it? Or do you have any prior knowledge before coming into this podcast and listening to Blake talk about his McDonald's order on the 45-minute drive up from Tampa?
Which I could go deeper on if we really wanted
We
to.
could spend that could be the whole pod. Thankfully it won't be.
Who knows? I mean, level select might have a menu component to the template. Who knows?
It depends on what he chooses for his must play tests, you know?
Um, okay, I know nothing about hole to hole. Okay, I've watched maybe like one or two videos, and I have some thoughts that we can get into. But I knew nothing about like I didn't do any drone shots or anything to prep because I have no expectations to go out there anytime soon. That's hopefully changing. But what I did know is I know about Cabot as a group and how they compare to, let's say, Dream Golf, which is the Kaisers, Bandon Dunes, and Sand Valley, and those kind of things. And they're all so closely related, which is why I knew about them. I mean, even in this magazine that I have up in the back all the time, they talk about Cabot for half this magazine, but I picked this up in my hotel room at Bandon Dunes because Kaiser is a co-owner of Cabot. He's a co-founder. So there's a lot of similarities. And you see that in like, I think you said, Blake, there's two 18-hole courses, there's a 9-hole course, and there's like an 11-hole course, right? Is that the wedge or
Yeah,
the,
there's a wedge course, which is 11 holes. I think the longest one's like 114 yards. Shortest is
yeah.
like 70. Yeah.
So if there was like the wet bandits from Home Alone, their calling card is leaving the sink, the tap on. I feel like Kaiser's is some odd number hold course at one of his resorts. Like that's just 19 holes? Sure. Fuck it. Let's make
Yeah.
it 19 holes. Like, people will talk about it. We'll call it the sandbox or we'll call it shorties. There's always like something there. And once I saw, oh, they got an 11 hole, I was like, oh, okay, this is a Kaiser Stamps like resort. But I knew nothing about what it looked like or any of that. I had only learned about it when it was being developed. So I'm very much excited to kind of learn more about the playability and what the course feels like when you're out there.
Yeah, I think similarly, I've watched a handful of like I think YouTube videos here and there, but not actually ever like digested anything or gone on a deep dive on the course at all. Most of my knowledge about Cabot has come secondhand from Blake. For anyone who hasn't listened to our Tory pod, Blake and I are coworkers, so a lot of our time when we're not working is spent talking golf, and a lot of our time while we are working is spent talking golf. So I'm going to let Blake kind of walk us through his first time here at Karoo, or you even give us when you step on the property at Cabot. Like paint that picture for the people at home. Like come come tell us why you wanted to talk about Cabot today.
Yeah, take me there.
All right, so Cabot is interesting for Floridians. It's kind of a mixed bag on how people feel about it. Um, a little preemptive knowledge about Cabot Citrus Farms is the course that and the land that it is built on used to be a course called Worldwoods, and Worldwoods had two or three courses, and you could get a tee time on Golf Now for $60. I had gotten them at some point for $35, and Worldwoods was one of those. It was an enigma where it was so cheap to play, and you could get a tee time whenever you wanted, and it was always in great condition. So when they announced that Worldwoods was closing, Cabot was coming in, people were a little weary of that because obviously Cabot prices are resort prices. You know, you're going to go play Cabot, you're going to shell out a little money. They're on par with, courses like Pinehurst, courses like Bandon. You're going to expect to kind of shell out the same amount of money. Right when you enter the property, you know, you get off the interstate and you go maybe a quarter mile down a road, and then you see a sign that just says Cabot Citrus Farms. And you're like, this is an industrial road. There are warehouses and buildings. You're like, there's no way there's a world class golf course around here. You make a left hand turn, and all of a sudden you're greeted by, sprawling fairways and a nice winding road covered by oak trees. And it just kind of sets the tone and transforms what you're expecting the second you pull up. You get to the guard gate, have a little conversation. He sends you over to the parking lot. You get out, and it's just surrounded by these super cool little cottages that they've built, which is kind of a nice departure from most resort courses where you enter a building and it's a hotel. There's massive room or a massive hallway filled with rooms, and it doesn't feel super unique. But here it's cottages, and you have to rent the cottage, buy the cottage. You can't just rent a room. But if you get 8 guys out there, each cottage has 4 bedrooms, 2 guys per room. It's pretty easy. And they're beautiful looking cottages. Some of them, sprawl across a golf course. Other ones are more like a subdivision, kind of like a neighborhood. But
They're
then once you
selling
get,
those.
yeah,
They're
they
selling
are.
them
Yeah,
too, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
you can buy one. I think I saw one that was like 900,000 for a very small cottage, and they go up to 2 million.
Yeah, I saw
Um,
like starting at 1.6 million for the 4-bedroom
yeah,
homes on the site.
You
yeah.
guys think I can convince the old fiance to sell the house in California and live on a cottage at
In
Cabot Citrus
Brooksville,
Farms
Florida. Yeah,
In
in
the
Brooksville,
Brooksville.
Florida?
the sprawling Brooksville, Florida.
Hurricane Alley.
Yes, Hurricane Alley, right before you reach the Panhandle. Those hurricanes love it. But yeah, once you go in the pro shop, you pay for your round. They get you in a cart. They send you out there, and the first thing that you pass by is the driving range. Beautiful range. We'll talk about that a little more in the Iverson test. But driving range is beautiful. Putting greens are beautiful, and then they ship you off to the first tee. And as you're looking at the first tee, you can see uh, 4 or 5 holes, and all the way out to your right you can see 10, or all the way out to the right you can see 10, all the way out to the left you can see 17 and 18, and then you'll see 2 and 3 off in the distance straight ahead of you, and it feels like you're in a different state. um, Worldwoods was great. It had a lot of native areas. It felt like Florida golf. The second you step on the first tee, you feel like you're playing a course like Pinehurst. And the first time I had played Cabot, I had gotten back from Pinehurst probably 3 or 4 months prior to that. And I was standing there and I was like, there's no way that this is a course in Florida, because you've got those tall, wispy pines. You got a
Hmm.
lot of fescue, a lot of native area, a lot of gunch. It doesn't feel very man made. It feels like they built it into the earth there, which they did. But it's a super unintrusive golf course. And then you start to focus on what you're going to do in your first shot. And that's when you realize you're fucked. And then we'll get more into that later. But it is a daunting first tee shot. Um, but it's amazing. The course is
Is
set
Okay.
up beautifully.
when you first see the hole, does the sand from the drone shots, do you feel that pressure? Like there's so much sand everywhere, or is it kind of invisible? Like you don't know until your ball rolls into it.
Yeah, I mean, so because of the native build around the greens from the tee box, unless you're in an elevated tee box, they don't really look as big as they are. And they're so well placed that you will be in them. And then you're going to have to figure out how to get out of them. And some of them are deep. Some of them are sloped very heavily, like something like what you would see in the sandhills in North Carolina, somewhere like Tobacco Road,
Yeah.
um, any of the Pines courses, Pinehurst. The bunkers are There are some bunkers that are ginormous. I'll talk about one later that is probably 100 yards by 100 yards wide, and the fairway kind of bifurcates, and you have to choose risk versus reward on what you want, because the green favors one fairway, but you don't really want to favor the fairway it wants you to favor. So
Yeah.
the bunkers are big and they are daunting.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay. So I want to let Blake get into how he's talking about this course and some of the must play tests that he thinks where this thing excels. But I think it's only fair if we actually talk about also some of the outside perspectives of the courses that we talk about. So we're gonna go out here. We're gonna grab a 5-star review that we absolutely love about Cabot Citrus Farms. And we're also gonna go out and grab a 1-star review. And I'm gonna give Blake a chance to kind of rebuttal on the
Yeah.
1-star or accentuate on the 5-star where he says, yeah, they're spot on there. I think they're being a little egregious here. We all know that when people write 5 stars, they're being a little facetious, and we all know that when people write a 1-star, they're being a little exaggerative, if that's a word. And it is now because I just made it up. So let's lead off with the 5-star. I'm going to read this, and then Blake, I want to leave room for you to kind of talk about this, or just, if you want to just stamp it as agreed, that also works for us. So this place is incredible. The service is out of this world too. When you go to world class resorts like this, it can sometimes be intimidating and some of the staff can be rude, but not here. I've been to other golf resorts like Innisbrook and Streamsong, and the service here blows them out of the water. Now, like I mentioned earlier, sometimes golf employees, especially the starter, can be a little uptight. I'll also say I did remove some sentences out of this where they talked about specific people by name. I didn't want that to be any sort of instance where we ran into some weird things with people's first names. So that sentence necessarily doesn't make full sense, but I digress. We'll continue. The starter we met truly might be the nicest human I've ever met. He shared golf stories, laughs, tips on what to do on each hole, complimented us all, etc., etc. Also, I'm laughing at the idea of him complimenting, being like, "Brother, I love the Q-zip. The Peter Millar is looking phenomenal today." Like,
Yeah.
I haven't had a starter give me any kudos on any of my outfits. So, at one point, he drove past us on one of the holes and asked us how we were doing and mentioned me by name. It just made me feel important. The golf is, of course, out of this world. Thank you for making our experience perfect. Can't wait to come back. Blake, how was
I
your
agree with
experience
that.
with the starter? How was it? Did you have a similar experience?
He's
It,
realizing that he's not special right now because the guy said Blake to him.
Damn, that guy remembered my name. Shit, man. No, yeah, the starters are crack. They're awesome. They when you get to the starter shack, they offer you a cookie. It's like a orange zest cookie.
Mhm.
They're fine. I'm a soft cookie guy. They're a little crunchy, whatever. They give you a reusable water bottle for your round, which is metal. It's a pretty nice bottle. But the guy, I like starters that bust your balls a little bit. That's how I grew up with golf. Is you always had, an older guy at the first tee that was like, you'd step up to the tips and you're 15 years old with your friends and the guy's like, "Hey, the little boy teaser up there, and you're like, fuck you. So I love it when a starter busts my balls. They can read the room pretty well. If you look like you can't take a joke, they'll be pretty soft with you. But they are very fun people, and they genuinely do want you to have the best experience as you physically can. I'm a big freebie guy, so when I step up to the first tee and I see that bucket with the lid, and I open it up and I just grab a fistful of tees, scorecards, ball markers, anything that has a logo on it, start stuffing my pockets with it. And he's like, "Hey, don't worry, there's more at the turn. You can grab more over there. I'll give you more when you come back." They're awesome people, so I agree with that. The staff there is generally friendly. The girls in the pro shop, I have to preface this by saying their real pro shop was not built the 5 times that I'd played there. They were operating out of a smaller, what I want to say is like a sales unit where they're trying to sell cottages, but they had turned it into a pro shop for the time being.
Hmm.
The girls that were working there obviously weren't golf pros. There was one time where after the most recent hurricane I had called to see if they were allowing carts out there because their cart paths are all sand. So you get any rain, it's going to be an issue. And the girls were like, "Oh, well, yeah, we have carts." And I was like, "Yeah, but is there like a local rule? Like, is it 90 degrees? Is it, cart path only?" And they're like, "Well, you can drive on the golf course. You're allowed to." So they just seemed pretty not knowledgeable about the sport, which was kind of annoying. But most of the people there are really awesome. The starters do rock. That starter experience is great. It's very akin to somewhere like Pinehurst, so they do that well.
Nice.
Okay. I want to also anecdotally share one of my favorite Sean Massey golf tips that I've picked up from him over the years, and it has to do with remembering people's names. That's where this comes up. Is if
I knew
I
you
was
were going
like,
to say something about this when
did
you
you
said
did you knew
favorite.
that did you know that I was going to bring this up? Sean, like probably at this point, it's probably been like 2 years since you told me this because I was like, man, like people tell me their names and it goes in one ear and just right out the other. Like it's gone. It is a fleeting moment in time because also I'm such a nervous wreck when I'm playing golf. There's so many other things that I'm thinking about. This man, genius move on his scorecard because Sean also usually, for some reason, you drive almost all the time. And so you always have access to the scorecard. Sean just writes down what color, like their name, and what color hat they're wearing, like so that he remembers who is who. And it's such a subtle, like, duh, why wouldn't you do that? But like it has saved me from so many awkward conversations of having to be like just calling a guy like Bud or like nice shot, dude, like all around, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I do a similar thing, but I had an experience at a course many years ago where I wrote like David Red Polo. And the guy at the turn was like, "Hey, can I double check your scorecard?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And he comes over and he's like, "Oh, David Red Shirt. That's not my last name." And for some reason, I was the most embarrassed I had ever been on a golf course. And I was like, okay, so now what I do is I love driving the golf cart. So yeah, if I'm driving, I know who the person sitting next to me is. Say we're a twosome, that's my buddy. If we're playing with 2 other people that they paired us with, the person underneath my partner will be the driver of that golf cart. So I just know that David's driving the golf cart. David gets that third spot, and then the
Mm,
passenger gets the fourth spot.
Smart.
That's how
Okay.
I do it.
That's a
that's
good one
smart.
too. That's a good way
Yeah.
to avoid weirdly being
Yeah,
ashamed that you
it
don't know
happens
this
all the
guy's
time,
last name.
guys. Yeah, guys, they're just like, that's not my last name, right? It happens every day. You just
Yeah,
don't think about it.
I was gonna let you attest my score, but now that you don't know what my last name is,
Yeah,
it's not gonna stand up in court.
Hmm.
exactly.
Okay, we heard about the good. I really want to get into. I think these bad reviews are sometimes going to shine through, unfortunately. But let's just get into it. I've played better $65 municipal courses. By the way, I've been a resort reviewer for 15 years. This was very poor by any standard. Cottages and dining. Expect nothing but electricity, water, and a bed. There's nothing else to satisfy your thirst or hunger. They can/should do better for the price you pay. By the way, not a drop of coffee for the coffee maker, and no one anywhere to even get a single packet. How about a bottled water or an apple? Is that too much to ask? We went for breakfast, parentheses, as our itinerary suggested, at the cafe. When we were told we'd have to grab a bite on the course because the cafe was rented out by a group for breakfast, all caps here. Are you kidding me? There is no dining experience to be had past 7 p.m. The best you're going to get is sitting outside and ordering pizza from an outside cabana. Didn't see this dining experience listed on the brochure. As I've said previously, and I've played and rated them all. Parentheses, Bandon Dunes, Whistling Straits, Doral, Aaron Hills, Sand Valley, Sea Island, Streaming, Pebble, etc. This is the poorest I've seen. I want my money back.
Wow.
Blake, your rebuttal, please.
So it's a fair. Obviously, he is a bit. He's been abraded by this course. It's a fair argument that he poses. When do you know when that was written? Do you have the
I
date
do
on
not.
that?
I do not. But I could see where you're talking about how some of the stuff was not set up early on.
Correct.
Um,
They had some, from what I understand, construction timeline issues, but they wanted to get the course. They had to get the course open to start making a little money, so that they could continue with their plan. The guy is right. The food there is a bit lacking. If you're a a Tampa native, or you're a Florida native, and you're going to the golf course, you can get pizza after you're around, and it's very good pizza. They have a pizza wood fired truck. You can sit, you can look over the golf course. It's very nice. I can see how it would be an issue if you're staying there, specifically if you were staying there 9 months ago, because nothing was ready. Really, it was like a preview play. That's how I viewed it, was preview play. So I took
Yeah.
everything I saw with a grain of salt. There were a lot of native areas that weren't grown in. There were a lot of issues with signage and navigation, and construction was happening everywhere. So that does dampen your experience a little bit. It's not this fully formed out. He throws in Sand Valley and Bandon and Pebble. Those are established resorts and courses. Those have been there for decades, if not 100 years. So they have had a lot of time to really hone in on the experience. And I think going in and attacking a golf course that's been open for probably just about a year now is insane. I don't think
I
that's
mean,
necessarily fair, but there's some truth to it. If you're going to pay a lot of money to be in a resort or a cottage, you need to have an experience ready for those people.
Or an
this
adjusted rate
is
because
Yeah.
you don't have everything fully open.
so
Yeah.
I had two kind of rebuttals to that. Blake, do you know if the price of the tea time has swung at all
Yeah.
in terms of
Yeah.
the last 9 months as they've ramped up the course? Like, this guy probably got it at a cheaper rate too, though, right?
Yeah, so when the course opened, it opened for preview play for Florida natives, and if you are Florida residents, I think the cheapest round I got there was $110, and the most expensive
Woo.
I got there was 160. Now it has gotten significantly more expensive as we've entered the caddying months. I think the number I had heard get thrown around was like $300 to $400, and then I think starting November 1st until maybe March, it is no carts allowed on the course. I could be wrong about that. This is just what I've heard. So not only are you paying $300 to $400 for a round, depending on what time of day you're playing, you also need to. You're either going to carry your sticks, which I don't recommend. It is not a amazingly easy walkable course.
Especially for
So
someone out of
then,
town who's visiting
yeah,
and not
and
and not felt the Florida humidity or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
yeah, I mean in the winter it's not as bad. But yeah, if you're lugging your sticks around, I don't recommend it. So then you get a looper, and he's got your bags for an entire round. So you pay whatever the caddy fee is, which is $60, and then you got to tip the guy 100. So you're playing around there just for golf. You're out the door $500 to $600, which is a lot. I don't know if I would pay $500 or $600 to go play Cabot. I love the Florida heat. I will go sweat it out on a 8 a.m. tee time until 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon in 95-degree heat, because that's what I grew up with and that's what I love, for a severely discounted rate, because everyone
It's
is scared of 95-degree weather.
it's
You'll have some of the
I know.
fastest rounds ever too that way.
Yeah,
It, obviously no humidity over here in Arizona, but the heat, I'll go out. I think 110 is like the max for me. Anything over 110 is like you're probably stupid to go try to do it, but there's guys that do.
Yeah.
But up to that point, you're going to play like a 3 hour round because no one's out there, and you're going to get
right.
like a $30 round for a course that's usually like 120 in the winter.
And
Um,
also, the people that are out there are probably relatively skilled golfers. They're
yeah,
people that know that one, how to handle the heat when they're playing golf like that. Because like there are different processes when it gets hot. So like a golfer that plays a lot is going to be more comfortable in the heat because he knows how to handle it. Cold towels, a lot of water. Florida natives, they know how to do that.
yeah,
So yeah, and the people that are out there, even if the tee sheet's booked, those people are probably sticks and they're probably flying. So I
yeah.
agree with that.
I saw Jan 1 to June 1st, Karoo is $400 in 2025. In the summer, it's 220, and then that ends on October 3rd. It goes back to peak season. It goes up to $430 from October to December.
Yeah, that's why I was so eager to get out there and play it. Again, it's not a course that people who live in Florida are gonna go play every weekend. It's not
Yeah,
$100 tee time where you're splurging and you do that once a month. This is a course that in the future will be comparable to places like Bandon and Pinehurst and Torrey and stuff. Like Torrey's not necessarily a resort, but you're
yeah,
paying a lot for a tea time. Like when I played two at Pinehurst, the tea time for two was $600. I think I paid $780 after caddy fees and stuff like that. But it's Pinehurst two. Obviously, you're going to pay whatever they tell you to pay. They're going to hold
yeah,
you hostage. I think that's where they're trying to get with it, and I think a lot of Florida natives who have played it thus far are a little scared of that price, not taking into account this is Cabot and people are going to travel across the world to go play
hmm,
So I think that's where the other thing comes in why this guy probably rated it a 1 star and compared it to so many of the other resort courses that he's played is because it's got the Cabot name.
it.
And he was expecting something and it came in well under that.
Yeah.
yeah,
I think that's probably why he was a little I won't say a little harsh. It was pretty harsh. I also found it very interesting. He talked almost nothing about there was no comment of the golf other than the $65 municipal courses that is better. I was like, none of this is about the golf. It's all about the experience, which I think
He could have been a
is really
guy that had a bad round and was just looking to shred the place and was
yeah.
like, you know what? Fuck this. I shot 114 today. I'm destroying. I'm burning it to the ground. I hate it.
we talked about that on Southern Dunes where I rated the vibes test after post round of being like, this is really gonna suck if I played really bad that day and I have to drive an hour home. Like
Oh yeah,
maybe same thing here. Like if you had not a great experience and then you've got to
yeah,
drive home, like
Just
that's
sitting in
gonna
the car, white
just
knuckling the steering wheel, radio
mhm,
off, just seething,
yeah.
just thinking about it.
Enough of how everybody else rated it. Before today, I asked Blake to come to the table with a few of the must play questions that we've got laid out and ask for maybe a few that Blake thinks that this course would be a pass with like flying colors. So, what would the Karoo course easily pass on the must play test? So, Blake, what's the first one that you want to look at? If you want to tell me, and then I'll give the refresher to the listeners of what I guess our grading system is for that test. It's obviously a pass or a fail, but I'll give them the details.
Yeah, so the first one that I chose is the Iverson test.
Ooh, so we're talking about practice,
Talk about practice,
not a
not a
game,
game.
not a
not a
game.
game.
So the
Talking about
Iverson test
practice.
says, does this course have good practice facilities? Would you spend time warming up or just head to the bar before the round? Blake, enlighten us.
Overwhelming. Does this have good practice facilities? It's yes. The only negative thing I could think about their practice facilities is that for the actual range, you're hitting off of mats. I hate mats with a burning passion. I feel like I play worse when I hit off mats. Um, that said, I had played prior to them really being fully open. And you can see where they have natural grass out in front of the mats. They probably have 75 yards of natural grass in front. So they were trying to probably root the grass and get it ready. So I would have to go play it after it's fully open to see. But the mats are awesome for one reason, and it's because they have TrackMan. And you can grab your little, it's not even a bay. It's literally you just grab a square on the mat, throw your balls down, and you just hit. And you can look at the screen behind you and you can play practice games. You can hit drives, it'll tell you how far. You can go from pin to pin, and it will tell you how close you were to the pin. Very awesome. Super cool. That is something I haven't experienced at really any other course. And then, you can sit there for as long as you want. I'm typically I grab 5 clubs out of my bag. I'll grab a wedge. I'll grab a short iron, a mid iron, a long iron, and driver. And I'll hit 5 balls with all the irons and wedges, and then 3 balls with the driver. So that's my warm up routine. If I suck at all of those, more balls isn't going to help.
Are you descending order? Like start with the wedge, work to the driver, or do
Yeah,
you like?
yeah. I'll start with because my gapping on wedges is 48, 52, or 52 or 54. I'm alternating kind of right now. And then a 60. So I'll grab my 48 because that's usually what I'm approaching greens the most with.
Mhm.
And then I know that I can saw it off or hit harder on a 52 or 54. But yeah, and then I work my way up to driver so that I'm a little more warm when I take that full swing. Don't
Yeah.
blow my back out. But yeah, and then once you're done on the range, after you're done, in TJ's case, shanking and topping a few, you can go over to rebuttal from the
Yeah.
class.
You haven't seen
Uh,
my game. It's almost a year to the date since you and I have last played golf. So
yeah, but I do
you know,
watch a lot of content on fairwagers.com
yeah.
slash IG.
Well,
Oh, we
well,
appreciate you.
you know how number one, thank you. But number two, you know how the whole story of social media doesn't tell you everything that's going on in somebody's life.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody leans into being a bad golfer. Maybe you know,
Oh, so
maybe
it's a
that's a little.
bit.
It's maybe I'm doing a bit. I mean,
Oh,
from one bit guy to
you're
another.
really committed to this bit, dude.
Real committed.
I have
Super committed.
strategically not improved my game for a year so that we could continue to have relevant content on social media.
Yeah, that's why. Um,
Blake, in
yeah.
the Iverson test, part of the question is, or head to the bar before the round. Last time we talked, I introduced you to the Colonel Palmer. Hopefully, you've had one since then. Have you had the bourbon with the Arnold Palmer yet?
I have. It is. I went to a. Oh, I'm trying to remember what course it was. I went to some course and I was like, I'll have an Arnold Palmer. This was post round, and I was like, I'll have an Arnold Palmer, and I was like, wait. Can I get a shot of Buffalo Trace in that? And they were like, yeah. That's an interesting choice, and it was wonderful. So
Yeah.
I now when I'm at Publix every now and then, like especially in the summers because it's super refreshing, I'll get half gallon sweet tea, half gallon unsweet tea, half gallon lemonade, and then put some bourbon in it, and to just kind of post up. It's a wonderful drink. I'm very happy you put me onto that.
Hell yeah. The post up
We
is a perfect. It's like someone described in that 1-star review, like the patio of the cottage at sunset. That's my go-to drink for like watching the sun go down. It's
Yeah,
a very nice like way to end the night. But also, if I'm at a resort like Bandon or maybe this one at Cabot, I'm free from shall we say being tethered
to a
or
vehicle,
what's
not
that?
a vehicle.
being being tethered
No,
to
not a
external
vehicle. Not a vehicle.
obligations.
These ones they walk.
Yeah,
But I'm I'm on the golf trip, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm not going to get texted. So
yeah.
I like to go a little further than I normally would on the course, right? And so that's my drinking choice usually,
yeah,
Well,
especially at like abandoned course. So at Cabot, my brain goes to like in that routine of at the range and whatnot. I think I
yeah,
do both. I think I go to the bar, leave enough time, bring it out to the range, hit on the track, man. That sounds lovely.
yeah,
yeah. I love the TrackMan idea for two reasons. One, I'm a mental nutcase, right? So I actually don't know if numbers would help or hurt my game, to be honest with you. But I will say that having a TrackMan or having something that is easily accessible like that, to where you could go settle a bet, or we have the internal debate of how far do you hit your 7-iron all the time amongst friends. And I would love nothing more than to line all 4 or all 8 dudes up on a range with a TrackMan and have everybody see who can hit their 7-iron the furthest, and whether they want to use someone else's 7-iron or theirs. I think that's a cool way to that's good for the entire resort experience, right?
Yeah.
yeah. And I like it because not necessarily the distances, but yeah, I think the distances are a little nerfed on their track, man. I'm not gonna lie. Like I step up, my 7-iron usually goes 180 ish. I hit my
Oh,
7-iron. It says like 160 on the screen, and I'm like, there's no way. So then I
This
find
is
a stick, I find a pin, I hit at it, I get close enough, I'll shoot the pin with my laser, and it's 175. So I think they're a little nerfed, but it's great for
Classic.
spin rate. I used it for my driver for one round because I was figuring out tee height, and obviously you tee it a little lower or tee it a little higher, you'll get less spin or more spin. So I was trying to figure out where my swing was, spin wise for the day,
Yeah.
and I ended up teeing putting it a little further in the ground and played a little better. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, and then if we want to go to, they have 3 areas in their practice area that I think is awesome. They have a little wedge area, which just it's 90, 120, 130 yard pins, and you just knock wedges down to them.
Mm.
And that's my favorite part of warm ups. Like I'll warm the swing up and I'm not doing any work to it. I'll sit there and I'll hit 40 balls with a wedge and just work on the feel for the day and
Yeah.
trying to hit a few knockdowns, something flighted, something spinny. I love that little area. And there's a bathroom right there by the wedge area because it's super far out on the other side of the range. And it's a nice bathroom, nice and clean in the morning. You might need it early morning tea time. But then once you're done with that, they have a putting green, which is almost similar to, if anybody out there has been to Pinehurst, they have Thistle Dew, which is right outside of the main clubhouse, and it's a giant, sprawling putting course. Cabot has the same thing. They've got cups with numbers on it, and you can have a little putting contest. I think they have 18 holes, and you can go putt around on that. I will say that the putting green when I was there was much slower than the actual greens on the course, so
Hmm.
you have to take that into consideration. But the practice facilities there, they're awesome.
Yeah.
There are some things I would improve, but overall, I think they're night and day better than most of the resorts you're going to come across.
Okay.
Nice.
So we know it's a pass for the Iverson test. What's the next test you wanna put the Karoo course up to, Blake?
I'd like to throw the buzzworthy test at it.
Okay. Question
Hmm.
number 5 on our must play test. So, are there multiple holes worth talking about? Does this course have more than one hole that a group would want to immediately go play again? Blake, what holes are they?
It
Tell us.
does, and it was hard for me to identify not like less than 18 holes. Let's just put it that way. It's hard for me to pick not 18 holes of golf. Um, but the opening tee shot is fun. You have 2 different fairways. Number 2 is interesting just because it's a super long par 4. Native areas and bunkers line it. But number 3 is the one that I want to talk about first because it is
First, are you gonna
an
take us through all 18?
no, no, we'll jump
Please
around,
don't.
but the first 2 kind of lull you into this false sense of security because it's like, you play smart, you'll be fine. You'll get out with a par or a bogey, no damage done, no skin off your back. But then you get to 3, and 3, if you tip it out, is almost a 300-yard par 3. So if you're playing from the blacks, it's like 295, 300, depending on the day where they put the markers down. And it is daunting because as you look at the hole, it sort of wraps this way, and up next to the green, there is probably a 20-foot berm that goes up to the cart path. And on the left side of the green, you have a retention pond, which depending on what season you're in, if it's super rainy, that's full of water. If it's dry, it's a little lower. But 300-yard par 3 is an insane.
Yeah.
That's just crazy.
Yeah.
Like you shouldn't have those be that long.
I don't have that
Um,
shot in my bag.
Does the hole at least have like a way of like some long par threes funnel the ball if you
yes,
make it past a certain point? Is it like
yeah.
that, or is it like
So
you got to
that
reach it?
that berm that I was talking about that's on the right hand side, the first time I played it, I played with some buddies that I played with in college, and we were speculating as to how we were going to get into that green because no one's flying a 3 iron into the pin location.
No.
And also, one thing about Cabot, when we played, it was rock hard. Like, there were times you would hit a 60-yard wedge shot into a green, it would hit the green and bounce 4 feet in the air, 5 feet in the air. And if you're on the green and someone hits a wedge shot, it sounds like it hit concrete, boom, and it would bounce and skip. Like if you were playing to those greens, you had to hit. If the green was in the center and it's 20 yards to the front, you're playing a 20-yard shorter club because it's got to snake its way up there. But this
Right.
one, you throw it up at that berm, and you just let it come back down. And as it comes down, all you have to do is hit a 250-yard shot, which some people don't have in the bag. This is me talking from the tips. You don't
All
have
you
to tip
gotta
it
do.
out. Yeah, it's all you got to do. I mean, 250-yard shot, that's a hybrid for me. And the hybrid's going to come out a little Weasley anyway, so it's going to roll. But, if you're playing from the greens, it's only like 250. So you hit a 190-yard club, and it's just going to roll down that berm. And that's actually the safest way to play it because the way the green works is it's two-tiered. And depending on where the pin's at, if it's in the bottom, it'll roll all the way down, and then it will slowly start to slide back to where the collection area is. On the other side of the
Nice.
green, it slopes down in the water. So it is a very unique hole. It is very daunting when you look at it from the scorecard. But if you use a little bit of your brain energy, you can figure out a way to get in there. And the one thing I will say about Cabot is when in doubt, be short. I would say 90% of every hole there, if you are long, you are dead. And not dead as in like, oh, it's going to be tough to get a club behind this. Like you are fucked. Like you're not getting up and down. You're going to hit a wedge shot onto the green. It's going to roll all the way off
All the way
20
back.
yards behind. Yeah, like you're not you're not surviving behind the green. It's like when you play a Donald Ross course. You always want to be below the pin.
Yeah.
If you're pin high or above, you're cooked because those greens are going to be slick and they're going to send the ball down. It's very similar to that.
Cool.
One of the other ones that I wanted to talk about was I think it's 15. This is probably my favorite hole on the course, just because it is. This is what I had talked about earlier. It's got a probably 100 by 100-yard bunker right in the center, and the fairways go out to the right and the left. Now, if you're looking at the hole on 15, you'll see that there is a little tiny strip of land in like the northeast corner of this hole.
I'm looking at it
And
right now.
That's
yeah,
why I was laughing.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
there's this little tiny strip of land by this bunker, and that is, I'll say it's probably 240 yards. So if you clip a bad drive, you can get there, but it is tiny and it butts right up against native area. There is water short of the bunker, and then you have the bunker to contest with.
Mhm.
So, if you play that, it's high risk, high reward. It is fairway. It's the short stuff. It's something you want to be in. But then you could go left, which is a much larger fairway by a factor of like three, and that is way more enticing. But you don't realize until you get up there that you are now basically blocked out from the entirety of the green, and you'll only see maybe the upper third of the flag. Now you could get lucky on a good day if you are, the wind's at your back. This is pretty drivable. It's probably it's 388 yards from the tips. I think when I played that hole and drove the green, it was 326. Winds at your back. It's an elevated tee box, so it's really adjusted. Probably playing 300, 290,
Yeah.
and the ground's hard. So if you hit it 280, 270, and you clip some of the thin stuff, it's going to roll up to the green. You're fine. However, the fan is in your face. You're kind of cooked. The ball's not really going to go anywhere because you're elevated. The wind's even higher up there. It's just going to balloon. Now, the reason that left fairway is bad is because there is a berm that guards the entire left side of the green, and you cannot see the green from there. And if you come in way too hot, you will skip to the back of the green, which slopes all the way down towards the bunker. And if you get a quick putt, you will de-green and end up in the sand. So
Mm.
it's just a very interesting hole. It really makes you kind of play your hand. It makes you think about the weather, risk versus reward, what shots you have in the bag, how you want to attack greens. It's just such a unique little gem that I love about that course. I will say I hate playing the hole, but I love thinking about it in retrospect
Oh
because it's
yeah.
well
Yeah.
designed. Yeah,
I like that in a traditional split fairway sense. Generally, one side of it is just shorter uh, to the green, and it's either a more narrow fairway or it's a very like it's not very long lengthwise, right? It's a very
right.
specific like number that you have to hit. And you have to be confident that you can hit that number, and that's your traditional gimmick with a split fairway. But I like that this one kind of changes it a little bit, where it says, yeah, you can take the safe route, but the safe route doesn't just make the hole longer. It actually gives you a much more challenging shot on your approach shot in because of how the green is structured. as opposed to just saying, "Hey, now your approach shot's 50 yards longer in." You know,
Yeah, I've
the
played both
rounding.
fairways, and I'll say that the right one, you'll if you hit that fairway, you'll have probably 100 yards into the green, just a knockdown wedge, something with spin, get on the dance floor and, get out with your par. If you hit it to the left in that big fairway, you'll have 130 yards in, which doesn't sound like a big number, but once you have to factor in where the pin's at, that berm, like the third time I played it, I landed right on top of that berm, and there is no shot to play from there where you're not hosed. Like you get a wedge under it, you hit a flop shot. If it goes 1 foot forward and 20 feet in the air and lands on the green, it's still rolling off the green. If you putt it, it's getting all that speed from the berm and hitting the green and rolling off, or it's getting caught up in the berm and you're screwed again. It's a very interesting hole, and I've played it from every angle. I've hit the bunker, I've hit the water, I've hit the right side, and I've hit the left side. So they're all the same, but it makes you
So
think.
Yeah.
yeah,
You've got
so
your money's
thank
worth on that hole, it
Yeah.
sounds like.
exactly,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
thank you for rounding out, all of your talk on the buzzworthy holes with talking about how poorly you've also played them. Because I thought for
Yeah.
a second there that it was just Blake's personal bragging session about how well
Yeah.
he's played Cabot Citrus Farms. So good. It's good to know that they're passes, even though that you've played them bad. So that's
Hey,
good.
listen, even Superman has his flaws.
Yeah, he still has a kryptonite too.
I
Blake,
do.
what's going to be must play test number 3 that we want to tackle here?
On number 3, we are going with the Glizzy test.
Oh, this man hammered 3 tests right in a row, right in the heart of the must play test.
Mm.
So, the Glizzy test, as you guys could probably decipher at home, does this course have good food at the turn? Are you eating here or packing your own snacks, or are you picking up extra McDonald's on the way in? I added that little portion at the end, obviously.
The
But Blake,
McDonald's on your way in is the professional move. That's the pro move.
tell us about
So
Cabot, though.
yeah, I will preface this by saying I am not a mid-round eater. I don't love it. It is I don't I don't like the food in my mouth as I'm if I get a peanut in my gums, I'm going to think about it the whole day. But I will say their turn is, if you can call it a turn, because it's not even really a halfway house. They have two refreshment stations positioned very well on the course. I will say the first one, which is their main one, they have hot dogs, sandwiches, all the chips you could imagine, coffee, soda, full bar, literally anything you want. They have. I think they had boiled peanuts when I was there, and I love a boiled peanut, but I had
Is
to.
that why you keep saying peanuts in your mouth? Because I was like, what is he eating at the turn that has peanuts?
It's so Florida specific, so
Yeah.
South specific, dude.
A boiled peanut in the round is pretty fire.
Too messy.
Also,
Too messy.
Snickers have peanuts in them, brother.
I
If
mean,
you're not nuking a cold Snickers in the summer when your blood sugar gets a little low and you need a pick
Oh,
me
I
up.
throw it in the
yeah,
cooler and pull it out. Yeah, at
yeah.
some
You
point.
just
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
you just activated Massey's trap card. Like,
When I was
Well, of course
when
I've done that.
like when you were a kid and you had the cold Snickers, what was your soda that went with it? Because there's a right answer to what pairs the best with the cold Snickers.
My only soda of choice, period, is a frosty cold Coca-Cola original. I
Coke
will
heavy, Coke heavy.
Coke heavy, not Coke light. Got to go
Yeah.
Coke heavy. If not that, if I'm feeling saucy, I'll go with a DP, a Dr Pepper. But that's because my fiance is a Dr Pepper enthusiast and
Yeah.
never really drank that as a kid. But now I'm like, yeah, DP sounds nice. That sounds
Massey,
refreshing.
which was
What
the
was
which was
yours?
the right answer?
Mine was 7-Up, a cold 7-Up with the
Whoa,
Snickers.
What the
whoa,
heck?
Yeah.
whoa.
Crazy.
Light colored, any light colored soda and chocolate do not mix.
No.
What? Yes, they do. I mean,
They
I'm
gotta
not
be the
Oh,
same
hating on the
color.
Coke or Dr. Pepper. I just think that the 7-Up is elite with the
I need
Snickers that's
something.
cold.
I need something full bodied to go with my
Yeah.
cold
With the
Snickers.
full-bodied Snickers bar.
Yeah, it's like eating a steak and drinking a glass of like Pinot Grigio with it. You need a cab. You need something with body, brother.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. No one
Okay.
drinks rosé, and no one orders rosé in a porterhouse. Like,
Yeah.
Also,
I didn't know
people
Snickers
should
was
order
the steak
porterhouses
of candy bars, but okay.
Yeah.
The Snicker is the porterhouse of candy bars. Actually, I take that back. I think the Reese's Cup, whatever anybody that's listening out there, whatever your favorite food is, the Reese's Cup is better than that.
I
I'll
would
just
love
leave
to
it at
have
that.
later on a debate about maybe this is extra time on this podcast of candy bar to cuts of meat and what we
Yeah,
think is appropriate.
That could
that would
be
be good.
a bonus round. That could be a bonus round
Yeah,
for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
But
Okay,
back
Blake.
to
Yeah, let's get back on track here with the glizzy test. Let me hear what other wrapping statements you got here.
so the thing that I love about it is you'll go play a lot of courses where the clubhouse has a little shack on the side where you can go get your sandwiches, hot dogs, sodies, whatever. Um, this one, you hit that every 9 holes, depending on how many holes you play in a round. This is set up where the first time you pass it is after hole one, and that seems a little soon, but when you think about it, from the time you got to the range to the time you teed off, ideally it's been about an hour and a half, 2 hours. So you haven't had much in 2 hours. So you get off of one and you're like, oh, you know what? I could do a Snickers or like a Colonel Palmer. I could dabble. And then you stop in there, you go 2, 3, 4, 5. As you're rounding five, you get off of five green, which one and five share a green, which is super cool.
Mm.
There's a ridge that separates the two greens, but they share a green. So once you pull up to five, halfway house is there again. And then you go off to six, and you won't encounter the halfway house again until you reach the ninth green and hole 10. It's the same place. So you hit it every 3 to 4 holes. And it's really nice because, especially in the summer, when you're drinking a lot of water, you need some place to fill up on water, something that's air conditioned, something that has a bathroom. It's
Yeah.
very easily accessible. The back is a little different. I think the back has one refreshment station. It's much smaller. They don't have all the accoutrement of the first one, but it is a place to go to the bathroom. It's a place to get a soda pop, a Gatorade, whatever you want. And I think that their turn is one, very well set up, and two, has everything you could ever want in a mid round snack.
Okay. Does
Sounds excellent.
I mean, I love the shorter increments of holes. I have a slight concern. Does a refreshment stand after hole one create any sort of immediate backup on the course?
No, I mean, I think the general school of thought for most people, it's there if you need it, but it is not an obligation. Whereas I think
Okay.
if you have one turn,
You've got to
uh,
stop.
that gets jammed up because people are like, I'm
Yeah.
not going to see a drink, especially if there's no cart crawl. It's like, I'm not going to see a drink for another 9 holes. So then everybody stops. Here, it's like
Yeah.
you can kind of take it at your own pace. It also doubles as like a lightning shelter in the summers, which is nice. I will say one bugaboo, Cabot, if you're listening, fix your lightning policy. As a Floridian, I don't want to sit and wait 20 minutes every time there's a lightning strike within 10 miles of the course. I get it. You have insurance. Screw insurance. I hate that policy. I went to Cabot with my buddy AJ and my father-in-law and his dad. We sat for probably 2 hours, and it was beautiful and sunny for 2 hours because 9 miles north of Brooksville, it was a storm and it was lightning. And they're like, you can't go back out. And it's 20 minutes every one. Ugh,
Tough.
whatever.
Tough.
But yeah, that sucked. But it doubles as a lightning shelter. They got little rocking chairs out there. It's nice. It's a cool little post up spot. But it does not affect pace of play because people get to pick and choose. They're not like
Yeah.
hoarding,
Yeah,
the
you're
turn.
not beholden to stop at one.
Exactly. Beholden is the right word. Yeah, you're not forced to stop because if you're going to see it every 3 holes, you're like, I can wait a little bit. I can wait a little bit. Oh,
Exactly.
now I'll do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Makes sense.
Blake, anything else you wanted to cover on the must play test as a pass for Cabot?
I do want to say I would like to hit on the dime a dozen test because
Okay.
as we've previously discussed with one-star review guy, this guy thinks that there are better $65 courses out there than this, at the time for me, $150 average course. I think Karoo and Cabot Citrus Farms in general is a 100% unique golf experience in Florida. Now, that's not to say you can't get a better golf experience. I have played every nice course in Florida. I've played Doral, I've played PGA National, Um, I've played everywhere. There are nice courses out there that you can get to more accessibly price wise. I think this is so unique because it transports you to not Florida golf. Florida golf is swamps, lakes, cypress trees, palm trees, very thin rough. It's very well manicured, as in the bunkers go seamlessly into the fairways or the rough. This is very much a departure from that. This is native areas. This is, natural wildlife. Um, the bunkers are they feel more like waste areas as opposed to bunkers, so it
Does it
almost
feel
feels
like
like
more of a
more of
Carolina course almost?
yeah,
Like
yeah. Like I said earlier, it feels like you walked into a course that Pinehurst would operate. It feels like something you would find in the Sandhills of North Carolina, and
yeah.
I don't think you can find that anywhere in Florida. I grew up here in Tampa. I've played every course in Tampa. I went to college at UF in Gainesville. I played every course around there. They all feel relatively the same. This is the first course I got to where I was like, wow, I feel like this is some different state that I've just traveled to. And then you get back on the interstate and you're like, oh no, I'm still in Florida. Yeah, I forgot about this.
Okay. Okay. I
Nice.
mean, I had a feeling that you were gonna probably talk about that one as well, just because you had mentioned how it was unlike anything else in Florida.
Yeah,
So that's pretty cool that it does feel like you're in the Carolinas without having to go to Carolina, but you still get the Pinehurst, resort style experience.
yeah. I think it's even if you've played every course in Northwest Florida, um, I think it's still one that you would talk about when you got home. Like it is you would
Mhm.
get home and you would tell your buddies, "Yeah, I just went and played Cabot. It was pretty sick." Kind of bragging about it, but they'll ask you, "Oh, what's it like?" And then you can't describe it if they've never been somewhere that it is similar to. Like if they grew up playing golf in Florida and that's it, there's no way to describe it to them in a way that they would understand.
Yeah.
That's
Or if they're
how
not like
unique
bona
it is to
fide,
me.
if they're not bona fide golf course nerds like Sean
Nerds.
Effie,
Well,
Yeah,
now you can just
right?
link them to this pod.
exactly.
Not this was the
You
description.
wanna know about
So
it? Check it out.
here you go. So, yeah, as we wrap things up, Blake, was there anything that you wanted to plug today? Do you want people to, where can they find you? Do you want people to find you? I know you've talked about your illustrious career for mayor someday. Are you promoting that anywhere? What's going on?
One day when I run for mayor, just remember vote BVT. And if you get a chance, stop into Tampa, Florida. Have a Cuban sandwich. Enjoy the beach. Maybe talk like a pirate. I don't know. But enjoy your time here.
Nice.
All right. Well, Blake, I want to thank you again for hopping on today. It was great to chat about Karoo. And like I said, ultimately, our goal is going to be to make it out to Tampa someday. Put this course to the full must play test with Blake. So fingers crossed, we're going to hopefully connect in person on this one someday and close the full loop. Or remember, ever at home, if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget, like, comment, subscribe, just smash the hell out of that like button. We're pointing down for the people who are listening on Spotify. But if you're on Spotify or if you're on Apple Podcasts, don't forget to rate, level select, and subscribe for some more upcoming courses and episodes, as well as our other podcasts, Must Play, any other bonus rounds we do. And always remember, folks, select your levels wisely.